And welcome to your Monday Nooner with me, Dave LaMont. This is the informal casual version, like it's dressy otherwise, but, T-shirt and shave last night. That's the way it goes. It does remind me, though, just before I sat down, I thought about this. I don't know how many years ago this was now that I used to do a news show on WIOD called South Florida's Morning News. I did it for about 2.5, 3 years. And, you're getting up at 4 a.m. and sometimes you don't go to bed till late, or you might have skipped a nap. And there are just mornings when you didn't even want to put clothes on. Never mind worrying about whether your shirt and jeans match or whatever. And I remember I didn't know what the format of the show that day. I didn't know who I was going to be interviewing. So I put on sweatpants and a long sleeve T-shirt. That was going to be it. Hey, it's radio, man. And nobody cared. There was no radio dress code. There really isn't one. And I had a guest that day in studio. And it's Andrea Mitchell, the White House correspondent, I think at the time for NBC. So a network correspondent, and I didn't know. And either that's because I didn't get a show sheet the night before, or there wasn't one, or I didn't have any idea, or I forgot. It's whatever it was. And I was mortified. And she comes in thoroughly professional, and here am I, It was awful. But in this world, this pseudo podcast world, it doesn't matter. You've seen I've got dogs bark, cats walking across the keyboard. It's an informal and low budget, the lowest budget possible environment here. So, but I was reminded that story is one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire career, even though none of you heard it and none of you saw it. And she was very cool about it. And I said, I am so very sorry. No one told me. I'm sure I copped out and blamed it on somebody else. That you were going to be here, I would have dressed more professionally, like a collared shirt, for example. So apologies for the informal attire. Actually, this is a collector's item. Broward volleyball. Broward College, as soon as the pandemic hit, dropped all their sports. The former Broward Community College used to call BCC, now called Broward College. It's a 4-year school, but they decided they didn't want to have sports anymore. And they dropped out. So this T-shirt is now a collector's item. So there you go. Broward volleyball forever. Few things. I'm not going to do any preseason stuff with the Dolphins and all that. It seems like that Tua right now could go 39 for 40 for 500 yards and 8 touchdowns, and someone's going to bitch. So I'm just going to wait till the season starts. And here's my thing about preseason or exhibition football. They were wise to cut down the number of games to just 3. There's some interest from fans. I understand that. Some fans are devoted to their teams from the beginning to the end, and that's terrific. And this year with TJ, obviously we're watching Packers preseason games, and he's playing great, by the way. Got a sack in the game against the Jets, who, by the way, while we're in the by the way mood, that quarterback of theirs, Zach Wilson, looks okay. Really good arm, and looks like he's calm in the pocket. And then if he has to run around a little bit, he shows some talent. Now, the Jets are beat to death already with injuries, and that leads me into my other thing about preseason, my semi-annual speech about how it's important and unimportant at the same time. Here's how I judge your preseason or the preseason of the teams I like or whatever. Who got hurt? That's it. Who got hurt? The Jets had already had a couple of key players go down, and in the same game against Green Bay, they had an offensive lineman carted off, and they had another player get hurt. Already Dallas is in trouble because they may not have Dak Prescott at all, and they can't find a number 2 quarterback who's worth a damn. And you're wondering why some teams aren't playing regulars at all. I'll use Green Bay as an example. So I got to see Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams be interviewed in street clothes. And it's a pretty good chance that they're not going to play in the next preseason game against Buffalo. Then they have another week, and then the season starts. So you might see some sloppy football in week 1 because a lot of regulars aren't going to be playing. But do you really want Devontae Adams going across the middle and having somebody blast him and knock him out for the season? No. So it's a real situation. For the Dolphins, Tua has to play. He's not Aaron Rodgers. You know what you're getting there. But in certain situations, like another South Floridian, Teddy Bridgewater, who's with Denver now, he has to play. He has to win the job. Tua has to shut you guys up and prove that he's the number one quarterback by a lot here, which should be a lot easier because there's a full commitment to him. So, yes, by all accounts, strong game the other day, and he's healthy, and that's really what matters. Your whole preseason can ruin your entire season. Your one game, one snap, one play, and your season is ruined in the preseason. I know the games have to be played. You've got to practice. And listen, there's spring training baseball where guys can get hurt. Guys can blow out elbows on the mound, or somebody can get hurt rounding the bases or whatever. I know there's preseason basketball. There's preseason hockey. There's all of that stuff where there's a risk of injury. But it seems like in football, it's the most dramatic. And so that's why I don't like to judge. College just starts. Now, you can argue, well, they play some of these smaller schools, Dave, and I know. But sometimes they're not. Alabama, Miami comes to an immediate example of a week, one matchup that is not exactly a preseason game. So not everybody starts that way. And if they ever do this alliances that are floating around out there, then you're going to see a lot fewer of those games, I think. Which is going to be bad for the smaller schools, because what if they don't get the checks that they need, those $750,000 to $1 million plus checks that they get from playing smaller schools that they need to help budget their programs? Because at the smaller schools, especially the HBCU level, budgets are a huge problem. So I don't know how that's all going to turn out. But back to my point about the NFL and preseason. I'm not going to say a lot about it other than don't get hurt. But actually, you know what? Something else came up. Let me ask you a question. And I don't know if I have an immediate answer for this. So I don't watch that NFL Top 100 show that's on NFL Network, but I do know that the number 18 of the top 100 players isn't playing. Not because he's hurt. It's because he's Deshaun Watson, and he's not playing for obvious reasons while he's being investigated as to whether or not he is guilty of some sexual assault charges. Texans never traded him, or haven't traded him. Despite his name, everyone was absolutely certain he was going to get traded, and that has not happened. And it's a very awkward thing, because if we strip away the allegations and just pretend that never happened, the guy's a phenomenal football player. But obviously we can't do that. Or can we? Can you look at him as only a football player and go, wow, if he ever does play again, whether it's in Houston or some other NFL team, that guy can play. And the video is awkward. I watched it. You can find it online easily. It just starts at, no one knows when Deshaun Watson will take the field again. Pretty much how it starts out. And are you okay that he was ranked at all? Should he have been left out as if he's not on any roster? Do you go, you know what? He might not be guilty, but if he is guilty, then he's not going to be in the NFL. So, whatever. But then again, there is innocent until proven guilty, a concept that went right into the toilet after the O.J. Simpson trial, the first one. The one when he wasn't found guilty. Made a lot of people mad. Made some people happy, too. Don't forget that. So, I'm okay with it. When I thought about it, I looked at it and I go, okay, they're only judging him as a football player. They're not judging him as a human. They're not saying he did it. They're not saying he didn't do it. They're just looking at the merits of him as a football player. And if you can separate all the smoke around him and go, okay, yes, he's a good quarterback, then you can look at that and go, all right, I get it. When he's avoiding trouble, he's really good, and he is. So I understand why they did it. It is awkward, but I think it's okay. I think it might have been more awkward if he was left off the list, because then the story is, then you're judging him, and that isn't the job of the NFL Network or the people who are tasked with putting together this list. Because out of that top 100, there probably are a few bad people in there that we just don't know enough about them. You know, it always cracks me up when people are so into their nostalgia from the glory days of God knows whenever they think they were glory days, that they have all these other people as perfect. Oh, well, so-and-so would never have done that. Or well, let's go back to the good old days when guys played for the love of the game and not the money. And they were great guys back then. Well, how do you know that? Some of them undoubtedly were. You know what? There's a lot of great guys who play now. And there's some scumbags who play now. And you know what? There were scumbags who played back then. We just didn't know it as much. We didn't have an internet. We didn't have 24-hour sports. We didn't have reporters who were willing to get dirty and dig and do extra work. You might have had reporters who traveled with the team on trains and traveled with the team on airplanes and became drinking buddies. The famous story about Babe Ruth in a train car back when reporters traveled with the Yankees in Ruth's heyday were like extensions of the team. And the story goes that Ruth was running through the train with no clothes on, being chased by a woman who was carrying a knife. And they went right by a table where a bunch of reporters were playing cards. And one of them said, wow, if I'd seen that, I would have had to write about it. And nobody ever knew. It just skipped right by. Couldn't happen today, of course, for many reasons. But my point is, they weren't perfect back then either. And they're not perfect back now. Just we know more about them. Now, speaking of not being perfect, the reason I titled this, What the Hell is Wrong with Us, is because I can't seem, and you can't seem, we can't seem to go a day or two without some kind of fan violence video. Now, the fact that all you have to do to capture fan violence, unlike the good old days, would be to take one of these out and start filming, I understand. There have been fights at football games, particularly football games, it seems like to me. Fights in these games for decades. It is not new. All right? My first job in radio, I helped cover the Miami Dolphins for a rock radio station, and I didn't even have a press credential to get in the box. I would sit in the Orange Bowl in like a lower part near an end zone, the closed end zone. I don't remember how many rows up. Wasn't a great seat, wasn't a terrible seat. It was all right. And I would drink the big 32-ounce or whatever the hell Coke that came in there because it was 1,000 degrees, and I'd have some kind of poisonous food that I'm lucky I'm still alive that I ate. And then I had locker room access. And I would see fights in the stands. It wasn't unusual. But now it seems like it's every week. It's violent as hell. And maybe it always was. And maybe I'm just, as I said before, getting softer as I get older. But we just don't, it's fight, 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 fight. And I actually think there are a lot of you out there who like it and who don't understand that it's just us breaking down as a society and not having the decency to walk away and always having to prove, hey, you got to respect me, man. I'm going to take a swing at you. Or if it's two women, which there was a mall fight the other day that showed. There's fights in restaurants. There's more of a breakdown of this stuff. And I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, although I have both of them in my life. Oh, yeah, I'm a nut job. And I don't understand it. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert. I'm just going to wonder what the hell is wrong with us. Why does everything now turn into a fight? Road rages are up, I think, or at least it's getting more publicity. It's okay. You know, we get people running over protesters with cars and being hailed as heroic by others, which I don't understand. I'm going to be going to at least one Packers game this year, maybe another one, to see TJ play. We haven't decided if we're going to do another one. And I'm a little concerned. And I'm completely serious. I'd like to wear something that says Green Bay on it, and it's not going to be in Lambeau. It's going to be in Cincinnati. And am I going to be okay if I have a hat or a hoodie if the weather is comfortable? And not get yelled at or get into a fight or have somebody scream at me, hey, you suck, because I'm wearing clothing that says something of the other team? Are we that dumb? Can you go to a game and hope that things go well for your team? And they go kind of badly for the other team, because if that's the case, it will go even better for your team. Or is that out of the question? Am I going to have to just go in neutral colors and go, well, go, okay, good play, be like that. I'm not an obnoxious fan. I will applaud a good play for either side. I obviously want the Packers to win, but I'm not going to get that worried about it. I'm not going to go get in the parking lot at 10 in the morning and get shit-faced like a lot of people seem to do as if it's their right. It's an enormous turnoff. And I don't understand it. Some of these people are really normal people, and then for some reason on Sunday they turn into, the face painter from Seinfeld, Putty, and just get hammered. And it's one thing if you want to do the whole dress up, and that's okay. But do you have to just be blotto to enjoy it? I don't, and therefore what happens? I know of stories of Jets fans who wear Jets gear at Dolphins games, taking their life in their hands, and reverse the process. If you had a Dolphins fan going to the Jets or Buffalo wearing Dolphin gear, you're not risking your life necessarily, but you're risking getting hurt, being bullied, being physically attacked. Why? For wearing a shirt or a hat or a jacket that's a picture of the other team. Now, you can be a little less obnoxious in the stands, but do you have to be utterly blasted to go enjoy the game? Is it your right? I don't know if it is. And then you're going to go home and drive? Really? And pro seems to be worse than college for that. And I don't know whether it's because the people who are most likely to cause hell would be the student section, and most of them are looking at their phones anyway. Then you have the alumni, many of whom have too much money, although they have the lawyers to fight their way through it if they get in trouble. So it might just be your locals who could cause trouble. But I can't remember college crowds being that bad. Can they be obnoxious? Yeah, at times. But it seems to be the pro crowd brings out an anger level that I don't grasp. What the hell's wrong with us? Why are we like this? Baseball games now. What we're angry about, I can't say because I don't know. And why you take that anger into an athletic contest, I don't know. Just saw something from French soccer this morning. Somebody threw a water ball, hit a player who was trying to set up for a corner kick. Well, apparently it wasn't the first water bottle that had been thrown, especially at this guy. So finally, the players in his team had enough, and they told him malice in the palace. They start going into the stands. Well, guess what that means? Here comes people over the barriers. They finally got it settled down, and the one team that had their players attacked never came back. The league wanted them, League One wanted them to continue, and they're like, hell no, we won't go. It's even, and I should go look this up real fast so I make sure I get the names right. But even in NASCAR, this kind of blind anger happened, and it could have been considerably disastrous because it was drivers running into each other, by all accounts, on purpose. It was on NASCAR News today. It was about a wreck that ended up with Tim Richmond being injured, who didn't even have anything to do with the first accident. And I have to look this up because I should have, ARCA. Here's the article, racingnews.co. Racing driver suffers broken leg following retaliation at Michigan. So this was Friday of last week. First lap, driver named Drew Dollar got under Thad Moffitt. Both cars hit the wall. No caution. They got the cars to pit lane. They had long repairs. So they do come back 20-something laps later. Moffitt finds Dollar on the track. So they're so far behind. Moffitt goes into Dollar's car on purpose and turns him around. Moffitt backed up the banking and slammed the wall. And what happens to Tim Richmond? He has nowhere to go, and he hits the door of Dollar. Richmond ends up with a broken leg and a fractured ankle, and his season is done for the year. What the hell is wrong with us? This is race car driving when you could hurt somebody very seriously. And maybe that was never Moffat's intention. But what is going on? How can you feel good about that? Did he walk off the track later going, yeah, you'll never mess with me again? If they can prove that that was deliberate, I'm never letting that guy into my any track again. He's banned for life. Even though Dollar wasn't hurt, Tim Richmond, who didn't have a chance to escape, was. And what if he was more seriously hurt? And listen, a broken leg and a broken ankle is serious. You just took away his right to make a living through your temper. What the hell is wrong with us? I know temper, okay? I've had my share. Never been in a fight. But I have had my snappies. And you look back on it later and you go, what the hell's wrong with me? And I don't know if people feel that way when they lose their minds. When they just overwhelmed, start slugging, and just start throwing hands because they can't control themselves anymore. What the hell's wrong? Why does somebody have to go to a football game for the express purpose of getting drunk? Can you go to the game to watch the game? I think most people do. A vast majority of people do. But there's that percentage that drags everybody down with them. There was a fight in the Pittsburgh game the other day, and somebody said, well, a typical Steelers fan. No, it's not a typical Steelers fan. The problem is, and it's the way in life, the idiots get the attention, and the good people get ignored. The squeaky wheel does get the grease, or in this case, a punch or a kick. I don't have an answer, and that's the frustrating part about all of this. The only thing that I can do and that you can do is to not become that type of person. That's all we can do, is take care of ourselves and hopefully not become what we see and go, God, because this is happening every day, man. And we've had people come on the court during NBA games. And I'm sure somebody idiot would love to go on the ice in a hockey game, but pretty hard to do that. But you got fans who are sitting this far from the court in a basketball game, college too. But again, that doesn't happen in college basketball. Yeah, you have an obnoxious student sections in college basketball, but it's never violent. And again, I've been to countless college basketball games. I can't think of a single fight. Now I can think of it NBA too, although I don't go very much anymore. Been to hockey games where, yeah, and where I live in South Florida, we have a lot of fans from other teams. You want to know the games that are the hardest to get tickets to around here? The Rangers, the Bruins, the Canadiens, and the Maple Leafs. And maybe Tampa, because there's a little bit of a rivalry there. Why is that, you ask? New York and Boston. Hello, I'm in Southeast Florida, not Southwest Florida. The Red Wings are too, and the Blackhawks. Montreal, because we have a French-Canadian population that comes down every winter. And Toronto, because we do have a lot of Canadians from Ontario who come down. So those are hard tickets. You know, if the LA Kings are in town, no problem. Dallas Stars are coming, no problem. Buffalo has a fair share of fans down here too. I don't want to leave them out. And it's, you know, but no fights. If they're out there, I haven't seen them. And of course, there is fighting in hockey. Maybe that's it. Maybe people get that frustration out of them on the ice because the players do it for them. Whereas in football and other sports, you're not really supposed to do that sort of thing. So can we get through an NFL season with some peace? Or if I wear a Packers shirt to see the Packers and the Bengals play in Cincinnati, am I going to have to arm myself with something like brass knuckles? Of course, we go through metal detectors. You want to know why? Because of you guys, you nutballs out there. Not the normal people, but the nutballs. So I guess the brass knuckles are out. All I want to do is watch the game. Have a good time. Maybe have a Huda pole, some Skyline, something. Have a good time. Watch the game. See TJ play. That's all. I hope it happens. And I hope we have a peaceful season. because apparently some of the injuries that are happening to some people aren't players, they're fans. And it's only August. And it's time to go. Thank you very much. And back on Friday with another edition of The Nooner. See you then.